So I guess we don't need to take a bunch of time in preliminaries. Let me just go ahead and get everyone aware of what they need to be doing today. And I'm going to change this camera here. Say goodbye to Jahira for a minute. And we're going to go here to the board, just so that everyone is clear on exactly where we're at during the cleanse. And of course, this is a virtual cleanse day 6. So for people who have been on the pre-cleanse, and then some people are of course on day 9. So we'll explain what everyone should be doing on both of those days. So those that are on day 6, which will say in your guide day 3 out of 5, because of course it's separated into segments. You're going to be utilizing your your toxin absorbers, of course, 5 times a day. You're also going to take your digestive stimulator number in the evening, 2 hours after you're going to take your toxin absorber in the evening, 2 hours after your last digestive stimulator. Actually, let me get the book on that. Sometimes, everyone has been having the same question sometime about the difference between when you should take the toxin absorber and the stimulators, and I just want to make sure that gets clear. That way there's no confusions. Excuse me for the brushing sound and things. This mic is not holding up well with this flimsy little t-shirt. So let's see here. You're going to be taking, of course, the toxin absorber 5 times a day. And then you're going to take your digestive stimulator number 2 hours after your last toxin absorber. So that's how that works. And everyone's been doing this now every single day at least, so you should be very familiar with what to do. However, the people who are, before I go on to that, I will talk about some of the number 1 symptoms when you're at this phase of the cleanse. And I guess my head's still visible there. But when you're at this phase of the cleanse, of course, you're going to probably have a little headache, especially if you were highly toxic before. So you have some headaches, possibly some fatigue, and then some mental hunger. Okay, so in order to counteract these common symptoms, you're going to need to make sure you're getting a lot of water in the system, especially if you're going out and you're actually out and about, because remember that not only the heat, but the levels of toxins and things can keep getting in your system, and even a whiff of the back of the bus may indeed make your head hurt. So the other thing, of course, is fatigue. You'll find that when the toxins begin to build up, the body starts to get this clammy feeling, and then you start to feel more tired at times. I'm not sure how the lighting is working. It looks like it's okay. I guess we could use a little bit more light in here. Let me see if I can open up one of these shades. Let's see if we can open up one of these shades for a little more light. Okay, so again, the fatigue, of course, is defeated by, if you can get some rest, go ahead and get some rest. If not, because you have to work or something like that, then go ahead and breathe. Let me put this camera up just a little bit so that you could see me. But yeah, go ahead and breathe and start working on healing yourself. Like there's obviously symptoms that are going to be a lot more intense, which is like if you're going through some sickness, if you're going through cancer or something like that. So in order to prepare yourself for how to cure those kind of ailments, not just within self, but also within others, then you need to start in the lightweight phase, which is, of course, curing headaches and curing fatigue and things that cause you to do some mind over matter. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be utilizing the breathing, if you can't sleep, to start telling yourself, look, I need to stay, I'm awake, I'm fine, I'm doing great, and this is how the mind over matter begins. And of course, the mental hunger is definitely going to need some mind over matter, because it starts to imagine even things that you didn't like anymore and things that weren't good anymore. All of a sudden, sometimes you think of something that you've stopped eating a long time ago, and that'll come up and you'll be like, man, I wish I had some of that again. So remember, that's the toxins. They come up and then they send the signal like, remember me, don't get rid of me. And then, that's it for them. So heal yourself with the breath. And we're going to talk about how to breathe today. And I would like to we're going to probably do this again, because I would like to have more area to do this in, and I just didn't have the ability to actually do that today. So let me get into day 9, those who are on day 9 of the cleanse, because of course it's a very important day, because it's actually the day that they begin to break the fast, as it's called. And that's of course why breakfast is called break the fast. So that's actually what you would have done this morning. I'm sure everyone's going by their manuals, is you'll actually eat one of those apples that you've been blending. And then around lunchtime, you'll be able to get back into light meals such as the salads, the veggies, steamed veggies, brown rice, even a baked potato, if you can find a non-toxic one. And then, of course, before dinner, you're going to take your digestive stimulator. And then for dinner, you're going to eat the same thing, basically, or the same types of things. And then you can add some protein into that meal if you like, such as they have here tofu and whatever you're utilizing for your protein. So the overall side effects of day 9 is actually joy, because finally you're at the end of the cleanse and you can eat again. So there is generally not too much that the day 9 is going to need to look out for, except for one, making sure that you stay on the diet, because you were going to, of course, be going into, for those who got the internal cleansing part, the internal cleanse. And for that internal cleanse to have the most effect, then the body has to still be soluble. It can't have much grease and much cheese and things inside of it. And of course, this is the best time also for you to decide on making that diet switch. Of course, there becomes a part in the fast where you're like, well, as soon as I get a chance to eat again, I'm going to go eat this. But it's really something that you need to consider, especially during the fast. You'll be able to watch your mind, and you'll see your mind say, oh, I wish I had this and this to eat. And once this is over, I'm going to do this and this. I'll be so glad. And you'll see that what it will move away from doing, since it's already on the fast, is just bombarding you with what it wants to eat now, and start setting things up in the future for, okay, so when this is done, this is the first place we're going to go. So you have to be careful of that, because again, you'll just be undoing everything that you've just done. So you want to keep your diet straight. You want to keep your bowels moving. Of course, when you're done with the cleanse, finally, there's going to be stuff that's left over. They recommend that you do continue to administer that to yourself until it's complete. So that's what you want to do. So the first thing that we're going to get into is breathing. And I'm not going to get into time breathing and numbers. Time breathing and numbers and things now, because that's more technical with the breathing. And of course, you can always look on to Skype and on to all the different media avenues as far as being able to get more information on exact breathing techniques, different breathing techniques. So let me do this first. Let me see exactly how I'm appearing here, because I'm actually going to have to use this little space, and I see I'm a little blurry. So let me keep adjusting this camera just a little bit. And then, of course, when we finish this, we're going to go over to Jahira and start a demo on basically crystal application. And that's going to be important also, not only for the cleanse, but also for you in the future to understand exactly how to apply the crystal to your body and some methods that you can use. So I'm going to go ahead and take a look in the chat box very briefly, though, just to make sure everyone is hearing me okay, and also to make sure that that things are broadcasting well. So let me just take a look at that. Okay, it looks like everyone is able to hear us properly, so we're going to keep going. And also someone did mention that in chat box, but I do have a show tomorrow, and I'm going to be going over a lot of stuff. Of course, I'm going to have to get into a little bit of the esoteric information, because that's what the network is requiring. But I'm going to definitely be talking about how it all blends in. And the title of the show is Overcoming Limitations or No Limitations. So that's really the tune for that. Okay, so here I am, and you can see me completely, and that's really what I wanted to accomplish here. In fact, let me just move this board out of the way, like I thought I would have to, just to move the distractions out of the way. And what I'm going to really show you is the technique, because that's going to be what's most important. You can kind of play around with the timing and how much you hold and how much you release and how much you breathe in and how much you breathe out. And you can do all of that later, but you have to first learn exactly how to do it. So it's really about posture, because there's a certain things that has to happen with your body in order for it to open up its pipeline completely. So what you're first really dealing with is that you have to center your body. And so this is what I call the stand-up meditation, because as we go through this, I'll show you a way to do it standing up. Then I'll show you a way to breathe sitting down. This whole body breathing is what we call it. And then when we get over to Jeanette, I'll show you how to do it when you're laying down. And so that'll give you all the insights on how you can breathe throughout the day, because this is the breathing that you could do while you're standing at the copy machine, while you're in the kitchen, washing dishes or whatever you're doing. If you find yourself standing around or sitting around, then you can immediately start breathing. And what happens is that once you start breathing properly, because most people are breathing backwards or breathing into their chest or just breathing the wrong way in general, once you start breathing the proper way, your body remembers basically that, oh, well, that's the way that I should be breathing. And then it starts to do it on its own. And especially before you go to bed, if you start utilizing this, you'll find that somewhere in the middle of the night, the body will be so charged up because it's been building that prana on its own. So one of the first things is to make sure that you identify the two bones that are here on your actual pelvis. So you have these two pelvic bones here, and this is what you'll be lining yourself up with. So when you line up yourself to the pelvic bones, you'll be lining up your feet down here. So the best thing to do is to get this, I guess that's the field goal, like the field goal with successful position. And then you line yourself up, even your feet, making sure that your feet are not pointed out like this, but straight. And so this is your first position, is again, to make sure that you are lined up straight, your feet. And then what you're going to do next is you're going to make sure that your knees are not bent, but not locked. And this is one of the most important things, because, of course, you have a complete chakra center. The chakras don't stop here. They keep going. There's some minor chakras in the knees, some chakras in the feet. So what you want to make sure is that all of that entire system is free-flowing. In order to do that, you have to prevent yourself from locking your knees and also making your knees too bent. So you're going to find a perfect equilibrium in between. And then the next thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take the weight off of your shoulders. And this is what generally happens when a lot of people start breathing, is they realize exactly how tense they generally are, because most of their posture and everything is built into their chest, or whatever they're experiencing in life, you'll actually see it in the person's posture. So the easiest way that I discovered in order to relax the entire body is to do a gesture like, oh my goodness, or oh my goodness. This seems to, for some reason, relax the body. So I always go, oh, like this, like I'm actually seeing something that is leaving me awestruck for a moment. And then what I find in that is I find that the shoulders release first. But generally, you can also shake yourself out. Some people, what they do is before they start meditating or using the whole body breathing techniques, they'll do some type of yoga, stretching, or something of this nature, because once you can actually get the body to relax, then you're already in the perfect posture to breathe. The next major thing is making sure that you understand that the reason why you're actually lining your legs up straight and then slightly bent is because that inside of your, in the tail of your spine, there's an area called the coccyx. And the coccyx actually has a very small hole that is in between it. And amazingly, even though it doesn't really come out much, that you actually breathe somewhat through that hole. So the reason why you need to turn the legs, or the feet, so that they are not pointed this way or even this way, is because you want to make sure that the coccyx bone is actually open. This is the way to be able to achieve the level of energy that you're looking for in the breathing. Now, here's one of the things that I'll say about whole body breathing very briefly, that it was one of those things that amazed me, because all the other ideas of meditations and things I didn't really appeal to. I just couldn't really see myself sitting somewhere and just stilling my mind and just sitting there. And honestly, I realized that that's not what it was about at all. In fact, if you could understand completely how to build up your current, then at a certain point you went on an adventure anyway. So meditation, to be clear, is not all the time just about sitting there and just, relaxing and trying to not think of anything. It's actually accompanied with breathing. And when you utilize this whole body breathing, it takes you into other states of consciousness, other states of self. And so the next thing you have to realize again is so we can go over it real quick, is to keep your feet straight, make sure your coccyx is open, then make sure your knees are not bent, And then now you're in the perfect posture, and of course making sure that the weight is not in your chest or in your shoulders. So now you fully relax yourself, you can shake yourself out. The next thing that you're going to need to see is exactly how to breathe. And I'm going to come a little bit closer to the camera for that, especially since, and I'm taking a look at the camera here to make sure. Okay, so there I am. Okay, so what happens here is that what we've been doing is we've been breathing incorrectly. And so in effect, what you're going to have to do is what's called reverse breathing, because obviously in the beginning you're going in the wrong direction, and we're probably going to need to reset this camera here in a moment, because as far as getting a battery in it, because it's running dead. But so what you're going to have to do here is you're going to have to understand how to, when you breathe in, the stomach comes out. Because when most people breathe in, the stomach goes in, and this is not really what's supposed to happen, because obviously if you're breathing in, then your stomach is supposed, and your body is supposed to inflate with the air. But in most cases, when people breathe in, it seems as if they deflate, because they actually put all the air in the chest area. So what happens here is that you have a brain in the stomach. If you want to get to the technical side of this and how the whole body breathing, and I'll back up a little bit here so you can see my eyes. The whole body breathing is primary over other breathing techniques is because there's already the knowledge that the largest brain in your body is actually in your stomach. Your stomach is full of brain matter, brain tissue, etc. So what's really happening is that this enlivening part of yourself happens in the stomach also. And this becomes a major thing because our consciousness in our stomach oftentimes does most of the thinking for us. And this is also what you're experiencing with the cleanse, where the region of the stomach is what's saying, hey, I need some food, and hey, I need, and starts to growl, etc. So what happens is that to train this area properly, it needs to basically expand itself. And to get it expanded, you need to breathe into it. So to be very clear, this whole body breathing also connects very deeply with Kundalini, because it is very difficult to raise any kind of pranic energies if you don't understand how to breathe. So doing my checklist, which is to line my feet up, to make sure my knees are not bent, and to actually to feel the coccyx opening and to relax oneself so that there's no stress and tension within the shoulders. You're now going to take your first breath and put your hands on the stomach to start training yourself how to, when you breathe in, your arms go out. Your hands go out. So exhale, breathing in. Stomach's going out. And as I said, we're not going to get into all the super technical stuff today. We're going to get really more into just the simple technique, because as you begin to play around with this, you'll see how your body begins to even feel a little woozy. And really what that is the vibration or frequency change. So this is something that you really want to do also if you know that you're starting to feel a little lightheaded. You don't want to work with the stand-up version first, because it is possible for you to lose consciousness while practicing breathing techniques. In fact, in the higher levels of the breathing techniques, you'll find that you're riding a wave of basically staying conscious, but not becoming so conscious to where you become body identified. So that is actually the space that you're looking for. So again, just to be clear, when you're taking your breath through the nose, your stomach goes out. Now, my teacher personally instructed me that in the beginning of this, you want to take breaths through your mouth at first. And they said to take the breath, but with no noise. I'm doing that so you can hear me, with no noise. So it's, when you make as least amount of noise as possible, you're actually providing the least amount of restriction as possible. So the next thing is that now that you're understanding this breathing where you have to breathe in, hand inflates, you breathe out, hand deflates. Now you pretty much have the idea of what the breathing is going to entail. And believe me, with that alone and a couple more pointers that I'm going to show you, you'll be able to do expansive things with the breathing. Another one of the pointers is that if you have a helpmate, that you can have them tap on the base of your spine like this. And people saw that in the last whole body video, but tapping on the base of the spine in the coccyx area, having someone do that, especially with two hands, gets that energy and fluid moving. In addition to that, once you start to realize how to at least make your hands go out when you breathe in, the next thing that you're going to realize, one, is that, of course, that your body doesn't take in much air. And that is actually going to expand as you begin to expand the areas that really haven't been getting air. And that's why it's called whole body breathing. One of those main areas is actually in the diaphragm of the back. That there's actually 3 pockets in the back that when you breathe in, those pockets blow up. And that causes you to not only hold more air, it also allows you to enter other states of consciousness. There's something about the body and how many different regions can receive air and the effects that that causes on you. General rule of thumb here is that as you begin to breathe, your body will begin to oxygenate. So what you'll notice is that when you take a deep breath in sometimes and you hold it for a moment, especially if you're doing time breathing, then you'll find that there's really no need to breathe. And this is what happens once you start reaching some of the amplified states of the meditation and breathing, is that you'll actually start to feel like you can hold that breath forever. And what's actually happening is because the body is so oxygenated, it won't really send the signal that, hey, you need breath, because you really don't. But they do talk about being very careful, because what happens with the Kundalini is that when you don't take a breath, it is, as a living energy, then able to go up. It will go up the spine to look for breath. So this is also what happens in controlled breathing, is that you want to make sure that you're getting your timing done properly, so that way you don't put yourself into some distraught condition. But I have no real warnings about that per se, as far as personally, I've never experienced something that was just so far off and so dangerous that, it needed a really good disclaimer. So the next level here, and that's why I bought the chair, and let me just make sure that I zoom in on that properly. But the next level here is for us to understand how to do it while sitting down. And this is, of course, a major thing. You want to really find a hard chair. This is not an excellent example, but it's not the worst example. The worst example would be, of course, something like a sofa chair or something like this that doesn't have any support at all. But we're going to utilize this chair for now, which is just a standard dining room chair. And okay, so we're lined up with that. The main thing I also want you to see is my feet. So let me just back that up just a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. And let me just pull this chair back just a little bit. Okay, so in the chair, it's really simple, because it's almost like what they used to tell you all the time, was sit up in the chair and make your posture straight. So what you're actually going to do is you're going to just sit up in the chair, and then you're going to align your feet. This is one of the most important things in the chair. There's really nothing more that needs to be done beside making sure that your feet are lined up, because that's going to, of course, open up your coccyx. And then you're going to just rest the arms anywhere. You can put them in a lotus position, or put them in a mudra, or do whatever you want to do, but just have them somewhere comfortable. And then you're going to start doing that breathing. Now, the reason why, obviously I've uncovered many different breathing techniques over a span of time, even the master's pose. But what happens is that obviously you're looking to ride the wave. So in the standing up breathing, you may find yourself somewhat in danger trying to ride the wave standing up until you become a breathing expert. And because you can lose consciousness, you can fall, you can hurt yourself. So originally, I looked at it as standing up is the most powerful. It's the one that you feel the most energy while you're doing. I will make that clear. Then second to that will become breathing while sitting down. And obviously, you would just assume the position and then begin to breathe, and then your main keys are keeping your legs straight and also making sure your stomach gets inflated even though you're sitting down. And of course, now we're going to go to the lay down posture, but also realize again, the sitting down one was premium, especially in the beginning, to standing up, because especially if you have, a bed or things like that you can put around you, if you happen to ride the wave and then fall off the board, for better lack of words, then you would only just fall onto something that was there. You wouldn't lose complete control of the body. So do keep that in mind, that you want to really work with understanding what these positions are, why they're useful. Most of the time it's because of the scenario that you're in, to make sure that you can breathe all the time. So whether you're sitting down, standing up, or laying down, whether you're really tired, etc., you actually have the ability to still engage in your breathing. I'll also tell you that, especially when you're laying down and breathing, that it's good to try to do this 15 minutes before bed every day. Meaning that if you are not a big on breathing, you haven't really started yet, just set yourself a simple note that, okay, 15 minutes a day, that's all I'm really going to work on now. And you will be really amazed. And you'll be able to utilize your bed for that. So let me go ahead and switch up some cameras here. I'm going to have to put a battery in this camera really briefly. And then we're going to get into the crystal meditation and exactly how that is going to work for you. So let me, again, switch up the cameras here. Okay, so we talked about before how the pranic energy, which is more similar to magnetic energy than it is to electrical energy, but the pranic energy of the body is actually able to charge crystals to a certain degree, meaning that once you build up this energy field within your body, you're able to unlock the compressed energy that is generally found within stones of the crystalline nature. And of course, how stones are formed through all the combustion and all of the infusions and all of the heat and all of what's necessary to create matter. And so what you actually have stored within each stone is all of the energy that was used to create it, and also a great deal of information about the spectrum that the stone is on. And so that's the next part of this. Okay, here we are. We're with my wife, and we're going to go ahead and start the placement of the crystals, because as I said earlier, and you're not going to be able to see me, I guess. Actually, let me see if I can raise the camera. But as I said earlier, you're going to need to find different methods of how to accomplish getting the crystals on your body and actually keeping them there, because you'll notice that many crystals are very large. I guess it's not high enough. Many crystals are very large, and so what happens is that when you're trying to put them on the body, or you're trying to keep them on while you're asleep, etc., then it becomes almost impossible. So today I'm going to talk to you about a couple methods that I use in order to make sure that I keep the interaction with the crystals going on throughout my day, if I'm choosing to utilize them. Now, the first thing that you should understand is that the body is set up in a spectrum. So what happens is that you have, of course, it's a wavelength. That's the easiest way to see it. And so you have the darker colors here all the way to the higher spectrum, and then you have the center area. So let me see if I can actually source that chart. But many people have seen this chart or diagram before, but actually we don't need to do it. It's just basically a spectrum. You'll see ultraviolet on this end, and then you'll see far infrared on this end. So in the top of the head, this is your ultraviolet area. In the bottom towards the feet, that's your far infrared, okay? So when you look at your crystals, in many cases, not all the times, but in many cases, you can determine where the crystal is going to go based on the color. It's like a simple rule of thumb that you can utilize in order to figure out where the crystals need to go without having to go and find crystal books and Google charts, and then you get the explanations, and all the explanations are the same like I got yesterday. But basically, you get the information of where to put the crystal based on what the crystal looks like. So here we have like a black quartz, and I generally use darker crystals for grounding. They always go in the lower areas. But what I do personally is I actually I sleep on top of this. Like I actually put this under my butt somewhat, and I sleep on it, because of course the bed is soft, so this is going to go down into the mattress. But I have a tendency personally to always make sure that I stay grounded, and I talked about this in in the post that I just recently put together about synergy crystals, that not to look at grounded as negativity. Like you're talking about two different things. Grounding is necessary for you to be able to amplify properly. So if you're looking for a high amplification, then you're going to need a good ground. And of course, on the spiritual level, how it manifests if you don't have a really solid ground is that you get a little loopy. People have a hard time understanding what you're saying, and you have a hard time dealing with other people. It's just basically not a good balancing fit. So always make sure you have some level of ground, and you can actually attach that ground. If you're going to do it in the bed, you can just slide it under you and put it under there, which I won't do now because that doesn't mean everyone has to utilize that method. So obviously with crystals, this is actually a garnet. You're going to start in the lower regions of the chakra, which is of course around the reproduction area. And then next you're gonna start with, as the colors go, they go red to somewhat like a burnt orange kind of orange, and I've used amber for that, all the way into like a yellow, and I've used citrine for that, into a green, and I've used green calcite for that, into a blue, and I use sodalite for that, into a purple. And so obviously also an easy rule of thumb of where the crystals should go is once you get them all placed, then you look at like where they are and you say, okay, obviously they're all too close together. So I need to identify where the midpoint is. So obviously this is a crystal that I actually, well, it fits perfect on the head for some reason. If you could lay there and still be still enough and keep it on your head, you'll have a great experience. But of course, if you turn your head a little bit, it's too large, so it'll slide off. And this, of course, is a museum grade amethyst. So what I do with these kind of crystals, especially when they're this large and I want to put them on an area that they're definitely going to fall off of, then I put it on, I put it underneath the pillow, and that's fine. In addition to that, while you're wearing these crystals at night, at times the crystals are going to fall off anyway. And the simple thing to do is when a crystal falls off is to just grab the crystal and stick it under your pillow and go back to sleep. So this allows you to be able to utilize your crystal meditation, but also not have to worry about whether the crystal is going to be okay. Of course, if you have a very hard floor, you want to be concerned about if the crystal falls off the bed and then hits the floor and then gets damaged. But if you have carpet or something like that, then you don't. In addition to that, you generally, if you put the crystal towards the middle of the bed under the pillow, you won't have a problem with the crystal falling off on the floor. You'll always be conscious of it. So in this tense, since you see how I put these together, obviously they're too close together, you would take a crystal like this, and then obviously this would be in the head. And then so you could kind of calculate that obviously this crystal is supposed to be here, this is supposed to be here, here, and here. You see what I mean? And most of the time you'll find that the blue to light blue crystals, remember there's not a specific, sometimes there's 7 chakras. First of all, the chakras are in different positions. They're not in a straight line, just so people know that. There's generally they work like this, right? So obviously the interaction with crystals is really based on the spectrum, and as far as where they are and et cetera is basically going to be to your discretion. So we can place this crystal here. What I generally like to do is I always like to have a crystal, especially if it's something like celestite, which is a blue crystal. Let me get that crystal really quick. It was a great help for me in opening up the third chakra, and of course third chakra has a lot to do with speech and expression. So let me just grab that crystal real quick because it's still in the back room. The reason why I didn't bring this crystal out at first, besides the fact that I forgot I was going to talk about it, was obviously it's a very large crystal and it has a lot of mass, so it's very heavy. And to me, it was always just a little too big to put on the throat chakra, but because I never wanted to break it and I didn't have anything else, I utilized it and it worked. So, and then generally in the throat chakra, when the throat chakra activates, you'll feel like it's almost like a gargling type feeling, and then you even feel a spiraling within the throat. So this is, I believe, celestite. I have to look up the names. I have so many crystals at times, and even celestite and selenite. Well, actually, I know what selenite is, so this must be celestite. So what happens is this type of crystal you would utilize on right into your throat chakra. So that's what you have going on with placing the crystal. So this is your standard configuration if you're laying on the bed and you have an opportunity to go ahead and do your crystal meditation and you have larger stones. Now the second thing is that you can do And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but I'm not sure if I drilled it home also. Let me give you some other pointers. When you're dealing with double terminated crystals, and let me get these up to the camera, are of course crystals that have two terminals. And you'll notice that by crystals like this. Let's see if it'll focus in on that. Okay, so crystals like this, and then crystals like this. Let's see if it'll focus in on that. Let's see here. Okay, these are double terminated crystals, of course. There's one more. And a double termination is very similar to like a positive and a negative pole. It's where a crystal grows and the poles are still on the crystal. I found that these crystals are excellent for actually bridging crystals. So what happens is that when you get this configuration like you've seen earlier on the body, and we even talked about that configuration being accomplished with synergy crystals, in the middle of those connections, you may want to put something like a double terminated crystal there to connect the energies. So you can see this as basically a wavelength that in each point, it either needs a double termination to connect it or a pranic field, which is what you have to connect it. Another pointer is that you can grab, if you're looking to do this during the day, like crystal meditation, you have a job, etc., but you want to make sure you interact with the crystals, grab some of this medical tape. And I definitely know I shouldn't be able to tear this. And I didn't bring any scissors, but I'm not sure. Let me see if you can tear it. You could tear it. Okay. So you want to take some of this, and this is not the greatest tape either, now I'm filling it, but medical tape is everywhere. Obviously, you have strong medical tape. So you want to take something like this medical tape, and you want to actually adhere the crystal to the area that you want to adhere it to. And you could, of course, if you're going to do it onto your stomach, then you're going to need a little bit more tape. And let me just stop playing around with this raggedy tape before I drop the crystal. But this is not a good example of the best tape, but the medical tape is going to allow you to stick the crystal on and it'll actually stay there because medical tape is very strong, except for this brand. In addition to that, we talked very briefly about this yesterday, which was the actual magnet. And these, I believe, are listed in the virtual cleanse on the pearl trees. If it's not, I'll make sure I put it there after the show. But we talked about how to utilize these also, because what I've bought here is just a small set of crystals like I was discussing yesterday. And I'll let you look in here. And we talked about how it's possible with crystals, especially that if you go into the higher grades of crystals, that size doesn't necessarily matter. So when you're looking at, let me see here. I'm going to try to get this into the shot here. So you'll see this is a very small little dish, and it's only about 1 inch squared. And inside of here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 crystals. There's a tanzanite. There's a sapphire, there's a Satiloco quartz, and there's a garnet, and there's a museum grade amethyst. But they're very small. And the reason why that actually comes into a great level of benefit is because now you can place them right inside of these what are magnet holders for the bioenergetic magnets. But you put the crystal inside of there, and then you adhere the crystal directly to the chakra, and then say no more. Meaning that for at least 5 to 6 days with this particular brand, you won't even have to worry about taking the crystals on and off, even if you're taking a shower. So that gives you an excellent method of actually how to get into the crystal meditation and also get into the breathing. Of course, we're going to do more of these, meaning we're going to talk about it more. We're going to get more in depth with it at times. And it's just good for you now to get the basics, so that way you can start applying this stuff to yourself right away. So I'm going to take a moment just to see if anyone has any questions. And obviously I have a great deal to do today in regards to getting ready for tomorrow. So we're going to be ending here shortly. But I do want to make sure that if anyone has any questions or concern, then they could voice that now. Let's see. Okay, so it looks like there may be, If someone is experiencing, again, nausea and headaches at all during the cleanse, then it's going to definitely be due to the toxins. So it's almost something that also when it begins, that it takes a minute to actually get over that hump. What I did notice is that you want to make sure that if you're eating any type of broths or soups and things, that you make sure that it's as fresh and natural as possible. It's almost better for you to, instead of going to get some type of half gallon or pint of broth that may be natural or organic, to juice the actual vegetables and then just drink that, or heat, if you want to heat that up to a warm temperature, then just drink that. Because remember, the whole goal is you're not trying to get full, you're just trying to really keep yourself sustained. So it's really important to just make sure you're not putting anything in your body that is going to make the toxins go wild. Like something may have a little bit of syrup in it, or something may have a little bit of sugar in it. And you just got to make sure you pay attention to those ingredients to not put yourself in one of those worst conditions while you're going through this fast. So it looks like that we pretty much got everything out for everyone. And let me take a look into the chat box on Skype and see if there's anything that the group has to say. And actually, it looks like there's some questions here. So, okay, so the question is, how should someone tap the spine as the other is doing deep breathing? And what about crystals at the ankles and knees? Does it not matter? What crystals affect those lower areas? Okay, so let's answer those questions. How should someone tap the spine when they're doing breathing? And let me see if I can have Jeanette sit up really briefly here, and then I can show you what I mean. So let's see. All right. And so how you would do it is, you see her spine here, and this is the lower spine. So of course you would be standing up, but we're just in this position so you can see. And you would have the person tap your spine like this. And you'll find it definitely doesn't hurt at all. So while you keep breathing, you have them tap your spine if you have someone to do that for you. And that actually allows your energy to move up. And in fact, the first time that I did the breathing, my instructor did that, and I started feeling my energy begin to raise. And it actually, I wanted them to stop really briefly, because I was like, okay, I'm not trying to have a Kundalini activation here, but I get the point. The second question is, of course, is crystals on the ankles and knees, does it matter? And in reality, 100% that you actually have the opportunity to put the crystals, and let me change up my camera here. You have the opportunity, actually that's fine. You have the opportunity to put the crystals anywhere. As we talked about that, anytime there's any type of appendage that is bending, then a crystal can go there. So you have here, 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 but it doesn't mean that you're going to walk around with this. And the camera's there, honey, just so you understand. I know she may be looking at this camera, not understanding which one is on. But yeah, you can just put the crystal right onto that area. And then again, when you're going into the lower areas of the body, then it's going to be the darker crystals. But that is not in stone, because obviously something like a moldavite, a lot of people choose as a crown chakra crystal, but it's generally a darker green color. So it can also be associated with the lower chakras. So what happens is that you really have to utilize your intention. Like it's about configuration. And that's why we did, I provided everyone the link for being able to attain synergy crystals if they would like. But there's also your own combination, because you'll find that if you can get your combination right, you'll have more sensations. Like you'll literally feel there becoming some type of sensation between you and the crystal. So it's really important to experiment with where they go, and using a general rule of thumb that the darker crystals generally go towards the lower area, while the lighter crystals generally go towards the higher area. Let me look again to see if there's any more questions here. Okay, I'm going to also go ahead and let Jeanette get to the baby. That's actually where Jeanette is most of the time. Obviously, I could have introduced her quite some time ago, but we've been raising a newborn, so that's obviously a lot. And so if you're, somebody's saying there's no sound on live stream. And let me make sure that we're not experiencing some type of issue. Okay, also, it looks like that we're okay on live stream. So if you're actually experiencing some sound issues, it may be because you may be using Skype and live stream at the same time, or who knows, but it should be cleared up. But that's pretty much it for the Bomar household here today. Of course, we're on day 6 of the fast, so we're feeling great, and we're definitely ready to get to this and also start the internal cleanse. Tomorrow, I definitely have a show to take care of, and that'll be in the UK, Norman Perrin show, which is on Sense Radio. So I'll be talking about a lot of stuff there, and we're just going to keep going with this. Obviously, tomorrow I won't be able to tune in. I will be available on the Skype chat that we've set up for this, the virtual cleanse Skype chat, and we'll be able to interact then. And it looks like the next time that we'll actually be physically seeing each other will actually be Monday, and we'll just keep it going from there. Also, if anyone wants to do a chat or a verbal chat and utilize the chat box, feel free to do that, meaning that everyone is there and we're all people, and if there's no clearance that's needed, if you want to talk to someone and you guys want to connect, then you can go ahead definitely and do that. And that's pretty much it. I guess that's all the questions. And let me just check one more time because I want to make sure that everyone gets the information they need. Also, everyone realize that I'm also on day 6 of the cleanse, and I got a lot of stuff going on. Like, it's just crazy. Everyone will get a chance to see how much I actually have to do during the day and how much my wife has to do during the day just to keep things running and to keep pushing out stuff and to keep things cohesive, especially with as much help as we have. We're looking to bring in more help so that way a lot of these programs and things will be a lot more fluid. And we'll be able to get someone on the camera and get people to assist in supplying you the proper images and things that are necessary for you to fully understand what we're talking about. But other than that, I do think that we're doing an exceptional job just at getting the information to you. And then the research that is necessary is oftentimes what you have to do for yourself anyway to make sure that you're crystal clear. So, Wholeness and Balance Vibrations, we'll talk to you on Monday, and I'll see you if you want to listen on tomorrow's show. And you'll find a link for that on the Resistance website. Wholeness. This, but it's really something that you need to consider, especially during the flash. You'll be able to watch your mind, and you'll see your mind say, oh, you know, I wish I had this and this to eat, and once this is over, I'm going to do this and this. I'll be so glad. And you'll see that what it will move away from doing, since it's already on the fast, is just bombarding you with what it wants to eat now, and start setting things up in the future for, okay, so when this is done, this is the first place we're going to go. So you have to be careful of that, because again, you'll just be undoing everything that you've just done. So you want to keep your diet straight. You want to keep your bowels moving. Of course, when you're done with the cleanse, finally, there's going to be stuff that's left over. They recommend that you do continue to administer that to yourself until it's complete. So that's what you want to do. So the first thing that we're going to get into is breathing. And I'm not going to get into time breathing and numbers. Time breathing and numbers and things now, because that's more technical with the breathing. And of course, you can always look onto Skype and onto all the different media avenues as far as being able to get more information on exact breathing techniques, different breathing techniques. So let me do this first. Let me see exactly how I'm appearing here, because I'm actually going to have to use this little space, and I see I'm a little blurry. So let me keep adjusting this camera just a little bit. And then, of course, when we finish this, we're going to go over to Jahira and start a demo on basically crystals. This, of course, is a very important day, because it's actually the day that they begin to break the fast, as it's called. And that's, of course, why breakfast is called Break the Fast. So that's actually what you would have done this morning. I'm sure everyone's going by their manuals, is you'll actually eat one of those apples that you've been blending. And then around lunchtime, you'll be able to get back into light meals such as the salads, the veggies, steamed veggies, brown rice, even a baked potato, if you can find a non-toxic one. And then, of course, before dinner, you're going to take your digestive stimulator. And then for dinner, you're going to eat the same thing, basically, or the same types of things. And then you can add some protein into that meal if you like, such as they have here tofu and whatever you're utilizing for your protein. So the overall side effects of day 9 is actually joy, because finally you're at the end of the cleanse and you can eat again. So there is generally not too much that the day 9 is going to need to look out for, except for one, making sure that you stay on the diet, because you were going to, of course, be going into, for those who got the internal cleansing part, the internal cleanse. And for that internal cleanse to have the most effect, then the body has to still be soluble. It can't have much grease and much cheese and things inside of it. And of course, this is the best time also for you to decide on making that diet switch. Of course, there becomes a part in the fast where you're like, well, as soon as I get a chance to eat again, I'm going to go eat like that. Then go ahead and breathe. Let me put this camera up just a little bit so that you could see me. But yeah, go ahead and breathe and start working on healing yourself. Like there's obviously symptoms that are going to be a lot more intense, which is like if you're going through some sickness, if you're going through cancer or something like that. So in order to prepare yourself for how to cure those kind of ailments, not just within self, but also within others, then you need to start in the lightweight phase, which is, of course, curing headaches and curing fatigue and things that cause you to do some mind over matter. So basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be utilizing the breathing, if you can't sleep, to start telling yourself, look, I need to stay, I'm awake, I'm fine, I'm doing great. And this is how the mind over matter begins. And of course, the mental hunger is definitely going to need some mind over matter, because it starts to imagine even things that you didn't like anymore and things that weren't good anymore. All of a sudden, sometimes you think of something that, you stopped eating a long time ago, and that'll come up and you'll be like, man, I wish I had some of that again. So remember, that's the toxins. They come up and then they send the signal like, remember me, don't get rid of me. And then, that's it for them. So heal yourself with the breath. And we're going to talk about how to breathe today. And I would like to have, we're going to probably do this again, because I would like to have more area to do this in, and I just didn't have the ability to actually do that today. So let me get into day 9, those who are on day 9 of the cleanse, because let's see here, you're going to be taking, of course, the toxin absorber 5 times a day, and then you're going to take your digestive stimulator number 2 hours after your last toxin absorber. So that's how that works. And everyone's been doing this now every single day at least, so you should be very familiar with what to do. However, the people who are, before I go on to that, I will talk about some of the number 1 symptoms when you're at this phase of the cleanse. And I guess my head's still visible there. But when you're at this phase of the cleanse, of course, you're going to probably have a little headache, especially if you were highly toxic before. So you have some headaches, possibly some fatigue, and then some mental hunger. Okay, so in order to counteract these common symptoms, you're going to need to make sure you're getting a lot of water in the system, especially if you're going out and you're actually out and about, because remember that not only the heat, but the levels of toxins and things can keep getting in your system, and even a whiff of the back of the bus may indeed make your head hurt. So the other thing, of course, is fatigue. You'll find that when the toxins begin to build up, the body starts to get this clammy feeling, and then you start to feel more tired at times. I'm not sure how the lighting is working. It looks like it's okay. I guess we could use a little bit more lighting here. Let me see if I can open up one of these shades. Let's see if we can open up one of these shades for a little more light. Okay, so again, the fatigue, of course, is defeated by, if you can get some rest, go ahead and get some rest. If not, because you have to work or something. So I guess we don't need to take a bunch of time in preliminaries. Let me just go ahead and get everyone aware of what they need to be doing today. And I'm going to change this camera here. Say goodbye to Jahira for a minute. And we're going to go here to the board, just so that everyone is clear on exactly where we're at during the cleanse. And of course, this is a virtual cleanse day 6. So for people who have been on the pre-cleanse, and then some people are, of course, on day 9. So we'll explain what everyone should be doing on both of those days. So those that are on day 6, which will say in your guide, day 3 out of 5, because of course it's separated into segments. You're going to be utilizing your your toxin absorbers, of course, 5 times a day. You're also going to take your digestive stimulator number in the evening, 2 hours after you're going to take your toxin absorber in the evening, 2 hours after your last digestive stimulator. Actually, let me get the book on that. Sometimes, everyone has been having the same question sometime about the difference between when you should take the talking absorber and the stimulators, and I just want to make sure that that gets clear. That way there's no confusions. Excuse me for the brushing sound and things. This mic is not holding up well with this flimsy little t-shirt. So